Welcome back to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So I hope you have enjoyed my last few videos on Upstart, where we dive deep into the fundamentals as well as the management. Okay, so if this is your first time watching this video, please head back to my previous few videos on Upstart so that you understand what's the whole thing about before coming into the financials. Because usually financial is always the last part that I look at. Okay, so I assume that you guys have watch all the previous few videos. So now I'll just dive straight into the financials portion. Okay, so why is it so important to break down the financials for any companies that you're researching? Okay, the reason is very simple. Okay, I do so because I want to identify a trend to see whether if their revenues are going according to to trend, or whether or not their OPEX expenses, are they still spending too much and stuff. So generally, whatever you're seeing here on the screen, you can extract from the quarter report as well as the annual report. All right. I did not change much of it. So basically, all those that are in bold are those that have extracted. Okay. So revenue, it's always something very important. I always track the revenue because I need to know whether or not the company's revenues are growing. Okay, that's straightforward. That's how I look at it for growth companies, if I'll put it this way. Okay, I will also want to track the expenses to see whether whether are the expenses too much or whatsoever. So how do I do it? Is that basically in Upstart's financials, they do break down into sales and marketing, customer operations, engineering and products, as well as G&A. G&A stands for administrative payments. So all these four components will add up into OPEX. Okay, now so after that, gross profit margin, what does it mean is that you just take the revenue, deduct the OPEX. Okay, you get the gross profit. So after that, you just divide back the revenue, you get the margins. Okay, now of course there are still other incomes here and there. Why do I need to add all this? So because all this will just give me the EBIT, which is the earnings before interest and tax. Okay, so that's how it goes. So why do I want to put this in? Because I just need to know whether their earnings growing and stuff. Okay, after which we have the numbers of shares, because I need to know what's the average dilution when we do our valuations. All right, so with that in mind, okay, what's the purpose of keying all these financials? So firstly, I want to look at their revenue. I need to know whether on a quarter-on-quarter as well as the year-on-year trend, is their revenue growing. So if you look at it this way, okay, for more meaningful kind of comparison for Upstart, because the whole of 2020, they are not listed yet. So you can kind of need to discount a bit here and there, even though the revenue does make some sense. But if you look at 2021 itself, okay, although quarter-on-quarter, their revenue growth, right, has declined for the last quarter three, which explains why the share price plunges, as well as the guidance that they gave. Okay, so every time when it comes to earning, most of the companies will actually give a guidance, a forecasted guidance. So for Upstart, they gave a guidance of the full year revenue of about 803 million. So if I were to sum up all of this, right, it just shows that the quarter-on-quarter growth for the fourth quarter, it's just 13%, which this is reason why it's not favorable for it's not favorable for investors, because they always want to see high growth quarter-on-quarter. Okay, and so for the first time, it shows that, or rather for the second time, it shows a very significant drop in terms of the growth. Okay, so however, on year-on-year growth is still growing about more than 100%. That's how I look at it. Okay. Sales and marketing, I always want to see, because the more sales and marketing you have, right, not necessarily the more sales and marketing equals to more profit, but having more sales and marketing means to see you have more outreach, right, for to potential customers. Okay. Other than that, generally it looks okay. Customer operations perhaps could be how do they what's it called, so much they're spending with respect to how they service their customers. The more customers they have, the more spending they may have. So these are possible expenditure. Okay, I don't really delve too much of all this. Yeah, generally that's about it for the financials. If I want to break down a very simple one. Okay, so number of shares, basically it's to tell me what's the dilution. So on average, it's perhaps about 4% in terms of the dilution. Okay, so now let me toggle back to the main the slide so that we can have a better understanding of what we are talking about. Okay, after we're done with the financials, let's go back to the main topic on valuation. So this, what you see now, it's being extracted by from the earnings transcript, the latest one. They said that their full year 2021 revenue guidance is about 803 million, okay, versus the previous guided numbers of 750. Okay, so let's remember this 803 million for the full year guidance. Okay, now if I were to use the discounted cash flow valuation model, okay, I always must input a risk-free rate. All right, this risk-free rate, basically it's more like a margin of safety. So since Upstart is more or less an established business, right, I use a 20% risk-free rate. Okay, now the dilution, although is 4%, but I use 5% to make it more conservative, to make my estimate more conservative. Current ARR, or more like current annual revenue, okay, I put 800 million, but although it's 803, it doesn't really matter much. Okay, I have also estimated a growth decline of about 15% year on year. Okay. Okay, so now this one, just hold on for a while. Outstanding shares about 77 million, that's thereabout. You can find all this information from the Google. You just need to Google it. Outstanding shares of Upstart, you can roughly get that number. Okay, so year zero growth rate, I put 80% now. If you still remember in my Excel file, okay, the growth rate, it's about 200%. But I just decided to be really super conservative and I just plunge in 80% in. Okay, and with this 80% in for the growth rate, all right, and I estimate and assume a 15% decline year on year, means to say, okay, in 2022, my growth rate will be 68%, 58%, 49%, etc., etc. Okay, so after that, all these are all. The next one, you need to estimate the free cash flow margin. Okay, so for me, I assume a 25% free cash flow margin. Okay, it's up to you how you want to determine it, but I determine at 25%. Okay, and I work out my valuation model to be around the range of $180 to $242. Of course, my exit multiple. Okay, exit multiple is basically when you decided to sell the shares, what's the exit how many times right, the share price is when you sell the shares. I decided to put 25 to 35 times. It's pretty much conservative because when the interest rates are low, right, usually can go up to 30 to 40 times in terms of the multiples. But now that the Feds are tapering the interest rate, so I put a 25 to 35 range for a more conservative figure. Okay, and it works out, the intrinsic value ranges from $180 to $242. The current price, right, 180 thereabout, I remember was about 170-ish to 180. I just assume a 180. Okay, now you can see that this is my intrinsic value range, okay, with my own parameters that I personally think that it's conservative. I'm not going to be very, very bullish about Upstart. Okay, but this is just conservative. Okay, so take note, this is not any buy or sell recommendation. This is basically just how I look at Upstart, my whole analysis. So in the next video, I will talk about what are the methods you can do for options for Upstart. Okay, of course, if you prefer to just buy and sell, buy the shares, just so be it. But if you like to have some fun with it, you can do options. But of course, we will talk about it in the next video. Okay, so I really appreciate a like and subscribe to my video, and please remember that this is not any recommendation. It's purely for sharing purposes. All right, so with that, I'll see you in the next video. Invest safe.